Sekiro is gaming finesse. It is without a doubt the greatest achievement of From Software Studios, but unfortunately, it is arguably the most misunderstood masterpiece in the realm of gaming. After 5 years since release, people still play the game incorrectly, resulting in players rage quitting, or if not quitting, struggling through or miss out on having one of the best gaming experiences. It took me a long time to research this and come up with irrefutable studies as to why this epidemic occurs. There will be spoilers, but don't worry. Before I show anything, even if you haven't played the game yet, I still have something for you so you can avoid what many players struggled with, including me. For a first-time player, here's my advice to you. Understand what the game is trying to tell you. Pay attention to the guides. This is not a Souls-like game, and I explained before how it's falsely advertised as a Souls-like game. It is not. Sekiro is more engaging and more creative, also very rich with history. Remember the solid trio. Mastering these three will help you tremendously. Master deflection and anticipation of attacks, jump kicks and Mikiri counter. A true warrior relies on two things: his tool, or should I say his weapon, and his skill set. One without the other and you'll be at a disadvantage. The game will test you. Take your time with every encounter, but most importantly, immerse yourself in the game. Enjoy every aspect. Okay, that's it for you. Get the fuck out of this video and go start your journey in Sekiro, cause shit's gonna get real. First things first, and I will fucking repeat this, Sekiro is not a Souls-like game. It is fucking not, and I said this before, it's not a Souls-like game. It might have the same vibe, graphics, or structure of a Souls-like game, which isn't odd because it's made by From Software, but gameplay-wise it is definitely unique and superior to all other boring-ass Souls games, and even adventure games in general. Because if you apply the gameplay and tactics of a Souls game in Sekiro, you're gonna struggle. Actually, I advise you to completely clear your mind when you play Sekiro, because this is the truth. You'll do much better and adapt more efficiently if you play the game from a new and fresh perspective. But if you play it from a Souls game perspective, you're crippling yourself badly here. Here's something that I want you to know that I learned after I mastered the game. I finished it multiple times, I killed the toughest bosses without getting hit God knows how many times. The lesson that I learned is that I wish I hadn't rushed this wonderful game. I wish that I enjoyed the elements and that I took my time with every single enemy, every boss, mini-boss, everything. Thank God it wasn't too late when I realized this, and I was still able to enjoy it, as the game is rich with endgame content, or should I say post-endgame content. So, which honestly made me realize how beautiful and rich this game is, that you have to pay attention in all battles and be cautious, and appreciate your capabilities and skills. Once you do that, you will butcher motherfuckers left and right. Now, I've seen many Sekiro reviews, and many I quit Sekiro or why I hate Sekiro videos. Here's my take. There are people who quit the game for invalid reasons and misjudge it. I could make hours of content just going around refuting all these videos and reviews. So many people quit the game over the dumbest and most avoidable or easily solvable situations ever. For example, some players quit because they failed to understand essential combat elements. Some quit because they failed to use the right strategy against a boss, and the excuses get worse and worse. Trust me, it gets really fucking embarrassing. There's a famous streamer who apparently quit the game over a very silly situation. He was fighting the first opponent in Hirata State who uses the thrust attacks, and the game tells you that you're supposed to capitalize on this with a Mikiri counter, and he kept dying to the same dude many times until he quit. Now, without even getting into why I think streamers are the laziest, dumbest, and worst type of content creators, if not the worst fucking people ever, during the whole time he was struggling with the boss, his chat was spamming Mikiri counter, and he never bothered to pay attention to his chat that was desperately trying to help him. And worst of all, he didn't pay attention to the game's message when it tells you this. And honestly, I will admit, I didn't pay attention to it too. You know why? Because I did the same mistake most of you did, which is ignore most guidelines provided by the game, and try to finish the game without appreciating the details and used a Souls-like gameplay. Wrong, very wrong. Now, the reason I understand most of you and I'm making this video is because I want to help you, and I was in your place too. I had the wrong approach and I got fed up with the game as well. And listen to me, if you're someone who quit the game, go back, play the fucking game again, but wait, only after you finish watching this video. So, I started paying attention to the game's way of guiding you through the gameplay and countering attacks. If they're providing you the solution, then how come most players are failing? Is it possible that From Software fucked up on that part? Let's take a look. When you play Sekiro, the three most important counters are deflection, jump kicks, and Mikiri counter. There are more counters through the prosthetic tools, which honestly not only make the game fun, In a way, it makes the game easier too, but if you also test some things around, like I've seen some players do, you can find really creative ways to counter attacks. So, are you told by these essential counter aspects early on? And if you were, how come you failed to apply them? So, I played Sekiro again. This time, I specifically paid attention to when were these guidelines appearing and if they truly get the message across or emphasize on how crucial they are to the combat system. So here are my observations. The first encounter, they teach you basic attacking to break posture. They don't visualize or explain what posture is, they only visualize what a death blow is. But once you attack the first dude, you figure out that the bar below their health is the posture. But honestly, some people don't. They think it might be the opponent's stamina or special ability bar or something, but eventually they're gonna figure it out. Right there, honestly, I think a more clear posture explanation and a visual would be a good adjustment. So this could lead to the misunderstanding that you break the posture by depleting the health bar and then you deliver the death blow, which is the basics of almost all combat in all games. But Sekiro isn't like most games. This is why Sekiro is unique. But they don't really explain that. A better example of this would be if they wrote, a shinobi aims to break an opponent's posture. Attacking an enemy is one way to achieve this by filling the posture indicator below an enemy's health. And a better visual would help as well. So this is a quick version that I made as an example of how it should have been. And then when you kill the first two guards, the deflection notice hits you, which is this one. Now this is fine, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this because that's what you're supposed to do. A master shinobi uses a combination of deflect and attack, although I would rephrase this one part. Instead of deflecting enemy attacks is another way to damage their posture, with deflecting enemy attacks is a crucial skill for a master shinobi. You see what I did there? Deflection in Sekiro should not be referred to as another way. If I had to advise someone about the game's combat, I won't mention deflection, as an alternative option or as another way. I would emphasize on deflection, jump kick and mikiri just as much. To prove my point even further, I genuinely believe that deflection is even more important than attacking. You know why? Because most of the fights are won by posture breaking that is a result of deflection or counters, not attacks. Honestly, you know what the purpose of attacks is? The purpose of attacks is that you pay a certain percentage of your earnings or purchases to the government, and then they use that tax money so that you can get benefits such as healthcare, education, food, water, shelter. But that's not how things are, unfortunately, because we live in a sick world run by the sickest motherfucker. Whoa! Relax, man. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the importance of attacks. Yeah, attacks, as in attacking an attack, not attacks. Oh, my bad. Okay, so attacks, deflection, Sekiro. Look at this photo. Mainly it's just to reduce the opponent's health to a certain point where his posture recovery becomes slower. This is where the phrase, the best offense is a good defense, applies really fucking well. Which is also another thing that I love about this awesome fucking game is that you're applying offense through your defense. Next one is this. Now this I honestly had a lot of problems with, and I don't agree with it. At best, even the experienced Sekiro players might try to act like smartasses and argue about this one. You're wrong, because I believe this is misguidance. So don't try to act like you're better than the rest, nor try to belittle Ya Awlad al-Gahba. Get your fucking arrogant ass out of here, because no one's got time for your negative bullshit. I'm here to help all you cunts. All of you, the players, From Software, all you pricks. The first half is perfect, no problem. The other half, though, is fucking chaotic. Okay, let's go through what's wrong. First, it's telling you to deflect a thrust attack. Bad, fucking bad. This is the moment where Mikiri should be introduced. Listen to me. Mikiri counter is such a vital part of Sekiro. Yes, you can deflect thrust attacks, but let's look at the outcome. If you deflect a thrust attack, you inflict basic posture damage to the enemy, but also you will get a major hit that will fuck up your posture. If you use Mikiri, you inflict great posture damage to the enemy, but also you completely avoid any kind of damage to your posture. So obviously using Mikiri is without a doubt significantly better. Honestly, never ever even try to deflect thrust attacks because it's so fucking counterproductive. Also, you know what I really like about the Mikiri counter? Is that instead of dodging away from attacks like a coward in Souls games, Sekiro tells you, no, don't dodge away. Dodge forward straight into the threat and deal with that shit like a fearless, skillful warrior. This is the moment where Mikiri should be introduced and it becomes a part of your skill set. It really is a bad idea to make a crucial counter mechanic a purchasable skill. Make it a passive that you acquire at this point. But keep the Shinobi Eyes, for example, as a skill to buy, because Shinobi Eyes is an enhancer to a core counter. Honestly, I think the best time to introduce it is when you face this dude next to the chained ogre. The guy literally initiates with the thrust attack. Right before this point, there's a sculptor idol that you can rest at. At that point, you can travel back to the temple and go to Hirata State, where you would learn about Mikiri and other valuable mechanics and tools. But it's possible to skip this due to unclear guidance from the game, as some players do. And if you get hit with the Dragon Rot, good luck. That will definitely postpone how long it takes for you to reach Hirata State. I'm not sure why Hirata State feels like it's a side area, but I think it must be introduced better or more direct, because I believe it's a vital part of the game the way it is now, since you learn about core aspects in there. But you see my point here. Implement these core counters without having the player buy them, and implement them in the character's arsenal early on, without having to cause confusion. Whether they travel back to Hirata State or continue, introduce the mechanic at a point where they'd have the ability regardless of where they go, because you'd need it in both places. This is a slight fuck up and it should be fixed. Now, you can provide options to buy enhancers to core skills, sure, but not the skill itself. Second problem is that they're telling you to jump for sweep attacks, which is incomplete. This is really wasted potential. Why on earth would you not mention to double jump and deliver a jump kick that will deal great posture damage? The jump kick is a crucial counter, it's a part of the solid trio. This is wasted potential and it must be clarified, especially during this fight, because this mini-boss specifically gets mad posture damage from jump kicks. It's the whole point of this mini-boss actually, but they don't mention the jump kick, because during my research I've seen a lot of players who jump the sweep attacks but not kick. This must be clarified. So yes, the way the game presents core counter mechanics is a bit confusing. It doesn't really emphasize on how important these mechanics are. That's why you get players fucking dodging the whole time, and I see like the rage quitters, when they die they go like, oh man, I swear I dodged that shit. I'm like, you're not supposed to be dodging. This isn't the pathetic shit of Dark Souls or Elden Ring. This is Sekiro. You have to be aggressive in a defensive way, which sounds odd, but it's true. Side note, as I generally don't respect the combat system of the Souls games, and as I continue to shit talk them, if I had to choose one that stands out from all the Souls games, it would be Bloodborne. Now listen, I'm trying to be really fucking fair and easygoing here. I've seen this happen to some players. I believe that visual or emphasis on these aspects is very essential. This is a starting point in the game, and you have to prioritize which piece of information is more crucial to explain or visualize ahead of combat. Notice how I didn't protest against the idea of suggesting the jump kick or Mikiri before the first Genichiro fight, because I understand what the game is also trying to say. In the first fight against Genichiro, whether you defeat him or not, you lose, you end up dead, and you spawn at the temple. This is the game's way of telling you, you will die. It's inevitable, but it's part of the learning process, so focus on getting better and enjoying yourself. Don't focus on not dying. The way I would say it is like this. You can't change what's inevitable. You can't change the fact that you will die, but you can change your process and attitude towards the subject. And if you have a solid philosophy, the inevitable becomes insignificant, and your journey will be superb. I would like to quote the description of the Shinobi Eyes skill. By the way, the game is a fucking goldmine with philosophies such as this. A shinobi's eyes do not follow the blade without anticipating its movements. Remaining composed even when fearful of its sharp edge is the key to victory. The game should emphasize more on engaging in combat with caution, not avoiding damage and attacking like the shameful Souls games. I suggest that the giraffe mini-boss should be one of the earliest mini-bosses, because that's a monster who can only be defeated through deflection, and it will force you to use deflect and jump kick. If you truly show the players how important the three main counters are, they will have a much easier time with the game. Or in other words, show the players that you can't weasel your way through this game with the pathetic gameplay of the Souls games. You're playing as a master shinobi. The actual definition of a shinobi pre-World War II is not a damn ninja. It is an individual of superior skills in many areas. That's why Wolf has such a diverse skill set and techniques. He's not ninja based, which by the way is historically accurate. You're not supposed to be dodging like a pussy, just spamming one button to dodge and attacking when there's an opening. You're supposed to go up to the opponent's face and say, I will fuck you up, pressure you, and I will counter everything you throw at me. Now, the analyzing part of this video is over. I told you what's wrong and how to do it right, whether the problem was from the game, the guidelines, your approach, your gameplay. I figured all that and I gave you the solution. You're welcome. So relax, play the game again, do as I said, and you'll have a wonderful experience. Now, I am by no means saying make the game easier. I absolutely love the part where I have to learn each boss and how to counter them. If anything, make it even more challenging. All I'm saying is maybe adjust the learning curve or guidelines as to what's essential and introduce it at a more appropriate time where it won't be overwhelming. Because as much as I'm defending the players who struggle, there have been players who actually paid attention, figured things out and progressed accordingly, which means that they weren't lazy and most of you pricks were. I'm not shaming you. Remember what I said. I was in your place and I realized what I was doing wrong. I adjusted and improved as I see fit. Before I move on to the next part, I want to bust some bitch-ass behaviors that I've been seeing. Folding screen monkeys. Everyone goes, what? That's it? Easy as fucking boss. This sucks. And I'm like, are you so programmed to the idea of what a boss is that you don't realize a unique and a different idea when you see it, to the point where you can't even enjoy it? To me, it was one of the best boss encounters. It was different, had a different pace, required some strategies, it was chill, had a very nice environment. Actually, who's to say it is a boss? You do get a memory, yes, but just because you get a memory from all bosses, why would they restrict memory gain from bosses only? All it is a unique encounter that you acquire a memory from. That's it. Yet people are so fucking stupid to process such a unique idea. The same way that the Garden Ape is the only boss that resurrects after a shinobi execution. Do you go, wait, this isn't supposed to happen? No, it's a new idea. Deal with it and appreciate its creativity. It's really sad when people can't process a unique idea. Oh, a boss has to have a big open area with the usual 1v1 scenario and ending. Another stupid thing that I've been seeing is superficial dipshits who do this kind of thing. And it's not limited to Sekiro, where they would show you two pictures, one very basic that almost seems purposefully made poorly, and the other indicating progress and is grossly exaggerated. Like this, for example. How the fuck does adding a exaggerated background and skin make you suddenly a better player? Since when did looks associate with skill? It's the same way in real life, where people associate a good character with good looks, which is fucking stupid. Stop with this delusional, clickbaity shit, ya lad al-gahba. I mean, I can see why it affects most people since they're superficial and think highly of something just because it looks exaggerated. The truth is, even if you made it like this, it won't mean shit. Actually, if you want a more honest version of this, this is more accurate. Because whether you have a higher level or more hours, your skills are affected, not your fucking looks or theatrics, you fucking weasels. I've seen people use mods to equip exaggerated skins, only to play worse than actual experienced players who use the OG wolf skin. So in other words, because this is purely a skill-based matter, this is actually more accurate based on my observations. Because genuine good players focus more on improving their skills, not skins or their looks. Stop being a bunch of superficial dipshits and get your stinky ass out of here. There's no place for empty shell, lifeless dipshits who are brainwashed by advertisement who don't understand genuine integrity and strength of character. Now, this part of the video is over. I'm gonna move on to express why I believe Sekiro is one of the best games of all time. Where do I start? Sekiro is a video game finesse. The combat system is so diverse, interesting and engaging. A lot of people don't know this, but there are many ways to counter many attacks. It's not just what the game tells you. Get creative and you can figure things out. The story is fucking amazing. The historical and cultural depth in Sekiro is beyond what you see or grasp. If you're someone who's educated in Japan's culture, such as the Shinto religion, the ancient folktales, yokai, you will truly appreciate how well written this game is and how intensely educated are the people who wrote it. I have to give credit to a YouTuber who made shitloads of videos regarding what I said. His name is Vatividia. But lore aside, I want to focus more on why the game is amazing. Look, I've advised most of my friends to play this game, but luckily it was during a time where they wanted to decide whether to play Sekiro or Dark Souls, and I always tell them to play Dark Souls first and then Sekiro. That way they'll appreciate how fucking amazing Sekiro is and how much more advanced it is, considering that they had me to guide them through it. And all of them have said or felt the same thing, which to put it into words would be, the feeling of defeating an opponent in Sekiro is much greater than the one you get from Dark Souls. You really get a sense of accomplishment when you defeat a boss. Because in Sekiro, you're applying pressure and countering constantly. It's a wild ride of intense, focused gaming adrenaline. And that message gets across to most players when they fight Genichiro. He's one of my favorite bosses because most players who defeat him have this sudden realization of, okay, I get how this game is supposed to be played. I gotta pressure my opponent and make him feel like he's in danger, not me. Because they created a combat system where you have a counter for every attack. And just recently, I've been seeing OG Sekiro players figuring other creative counters, and I fucking love that people are still experimenting. And it's impressive. Just look at this clip. Honestly, even movies don't make shit like this anymore. He countered the lightning, and then Genichiro reversed it with the Sakura dance, and then the motherfucker sent it back with its Sakura dance. You can't make this shit up. That lightning got tossed around like a goddamn blunt. You know what Sekiro did to me? It tested and evolved my gaming skills, and it certainly redefines combat in video games. And when I played other adventure games, it made all of them look inferior. God of War, Neo, when you play those games as a master shinobi, not only those games are easier, you start to see flaws in their combat system as well, and then you appreciate how unique and superior Sekiro is to all other games. In the Souls games, all you fucking do is just dodge and attack during an opening. In other words, to say it respectfully, the Souls games combat is fucking boring and it's not fun at all. Creating Sekiro showcased a whole new level of combat creativity. It really transcends the combat system compared to all games, not just from software games. I salute the developers and creators of the combat system. But at the same time, it is fucking unfortunate that From Software went from creating Sekiro to making a Souls-like game, which is Elden Ring. Why? Why the fuck would you do that? From what I saw or heard, Elden Ring is very similar to Dark Souls, which is why I'm not motivated to play it at all. You showed us that you have creative and wonderful ideas, and you throw all that away to make a game that is as boring as other Souls games? I'm talking about the gameplay and combat specifically. Why the fuck should you cripple your creative growth just because a bunch of lazy players failed to understand the genius of your best work? Dear Miyazaki-san, listen to me. You and your fine developers had the potential to make outstanding, creative, and engaging combat systems. Don't abandon that. Don't try to please the masses, and try to focus on creating something original and unique, because that's what Sekiro is. Let me tell you something. Here's the truth. Even if you're a Souls games fan, you have to deal with this fact. In Dark Souls, most players play the game with this mindset of get this fight over with and move on. Don't even focus or think about it. That's why they quit Sekiro, because they can't apply that lazy mindset. In Sekiro, if you think you can weasel your way through the game with that attitude, you won't make it. In Dark Souls, most players never think about going back and fighting the same boss. Really, a few players do because the fights are boring. Maybe the atmosphere of the fight is nice, which I will admit, Nameless King and Slave Knight Gale have a beautiful setup, but that doesn't mean shit if fighting them is boring. However, in Sekiro, the majority of players want to go back and fight bosses, because here's the reality. Fighting bosses in Sekiro is entertaining. The process of figuring out a boss and fighting them is extremely fun and rewarding. Many players were using the boss rush mode, and it was highly requested by the player base to implement this feature in Sekiro, and they did. Reflection of Strength was added to the game along with the Gauntlet of Strength, and it's fucking amazing. A mini-boss feature would also be amazing. For fuck's sake, the long-arm centipede giraffe mini-boss outpaces almost all bosses in all Souls games. End of fucking discussion. Miyazaki-san, listen to me. You and your team, your next step is creating another masterpiece that is similar or even better than Sekiro. Not a fucking Elden Ring DLC. Like I said, you guys are creative and you can create new and wonderful combat systems. But please don't make it cheesy like most games do. Don't do a sequel to Sekiro. The story ended. The game is a masterpiece. Leave it as it is. Maybe one DLC, but that's it. Oh, and by the way, it is about time that we stop the bullshit Souls-like term and start saying Sekiro-like. If you make Sekiro-like games. Because honestly, I mean... if From Software seriously kills this creative capability that they have, God, that would be such a fucking waste. But no matter what, I will always appreciate Sekiro and acknowledge it as the superior to all other games it created, unless you do as I said. Look, one of the best bosses in Sekiro, or actually in video games, is the Guardian Ape. Everything about it is just so well made. It starts out intense. When you see him from a distance, you know you're about to get into some serious shit. And as you approach him, he turns around and you see that monster's face with the scar and a huge sword shoved through his neck. And that wonderful intense soundtrack plays that was made by the sexy ass composer Yuka Kitamura-san. The one aspect that stands out is that he's a giant boss, but he's not slow. This is one thing I hated about fighting giant bosses in video games. He's bigger in size, but he's got the muscle mass to move just as fast. It's a myth that the bigger it is, the slower it moves. Also, he's a fucking ape. He's a wild creature. He's gonna be mad aggressive, extremely fast, agile as fuck, he'll lunge at you, and especially, as a nasty motherfucker, he'll fart and throw poop at you. This is why he's an awesome boss. They didn't shy away from showing the realism and aggression of fighting a giant ape. To me, fighting him was the point of everlasting change. I pushed my way through the game using Dark Souls gameplay with the lazy approach, but when I reached him, I died so many times that at one point I thought, hold on, he seems to have a chain of moves and they're the same, and I memorized them by now. Why am I still getting hit and dying? It's definitely my gameplay, so let me pay attention and try to counter his attacks. And I kid you not, after I had that realization, the next attempt I went from being completely destroyed by him to ass fucking his big pink ass without getting hit. 0 hits, full HP, no healing items. You see what I mean? I realized that I gotta go up to him, fuck him up, not get greedy and counter all his attacks. But most importantly, I had to stab him in the big pink butt. And Ishin, I want to say don't get me started on Ishin, but fuck you, I'm gonna get started. Ishin is probably one of the best final bosses in video games. Every detail is fantastic. The build-up, the location, the atmosphere, and Ishin himself. He's got that man up and fight attitude. And just after you beat him, everything about that execution is fantastic. He gives you the respect you deserve for beating him. Even the Master Shinobi himself pays respect to the old man, which, by the way, is the highest integrity I've ever seen in a defeated character. That you can't help but respect battling this man. Another aspect of Sekiro is how you'll have to assess each fight differently. Most enemies can be pressured, almost like placing a lock on their attacks. Up until they deflect you back and hit you, you counter appropriately and keep pressuring. Not all, but most enemies can be dealt with this way. Like I said before, and I will fucking repeat myself, this isn't the pathetic runaway and attack style of Souls games. This is Sekiro. Up front, face to face, courage and skill, fuck up your enemy. That's why almost every single fight you get into is its own fight. It requires its own strategy, study, and combat. It really is a work of art. That's also why earlier I said that I wish I didn't rush this game and I enjoyed every part of it. And if you want to achieve all of this, you've got to relax, man. You have to pay attention and you'll be doing justice to yourself and the game by being a Master Shinobi. Do not hesitate when you fight an opponent. If you get punished or die, it's okay, and I believe they made it this way so that with every attempt you can process what you experienced, learn and improve. Some adapt faster, some slower. Who gives a shit? It's not a competition. It's your fucking life and you have all the time in the world. So take your time, but remember, you must never hesitate because... Mayoeba yabureru. Saraba.